"Excuse me, you really shouldn't be handling that." Victoria Hawthorne's sharp voice cut through the ambient hum of the bustling Midtown Whole Foods, drawing more than a few curious glances from shoppers maneuvering around overflowing carts. Her perfectly manicured hand pointed at the half-full crate of organic strawberries Mike Sullivan, a single father with paint-streaked hands and sweat-dampened shirt, was carrying toward the checkout. Victoria's tone carried the kind of condescension that could slice through glass. Assuming he wouldn't understand the words, she spat out in French. Comme vous shouldn't even be in this section." Mike froze for a fraction of a second, steadying the crate. Beside him, his 8-year-old daughter, Lila, tugged gently at his sleeve, her wide hazel eyes scanning the scene, sensing the tension, but unsure how to react. She had inherited her mother's courage, yet today, she clutched her stuffed rabbit, silently hoping her dad wouldn't lose his cool. Victoria adjusted her designer scarf, tilting her chin arrogantly. She had assumed that the unshaven, work-stained man in front of her, balancing groceries like a circus act while managing a small child, could barely speak English, let alone French, a language she loved flaunting in elite circles. "Honestly, it's embarrassing to see someone so mediocre attempt to shop here," she sneered, her tone laced with amusement for anyone who might overhear. Mike, who had been silently enduring the world's little judgments for years, felt a familiar surge of calm precision, a residue of a past life he never broadcast. He had once served overseas in a specialized tactical unit, mastering skills he no longer needed daily but never forgot. Acute awareness, rapid problem-solving under stress, and an uncanny ability to remain composed under scrutiny. He looked Victoria directly in the eyes, his voice low but controlled, carrying a lilting French accent that caught her completely off guard. "Excuse me, madam, I believe you misjudged me." The words were deliberate, crisp, and unmistakably fluent. A hush fell over the nearby shoppers. Lila's jaw dropped slightly, pride and surprise mingling on her small face. Victoria's perfectly sculpted brow lifted. For a moment, the world seemed to pause. Her phone hovered mid-air, the French insults she had so carefully typed now utterly irrelevant. Mike continued, calmly elaborating in French, explaining that he had earned a scholarship to the Sorbonne before life circumstances had pulled him back to New York, where he had taken up odd jobs to care for Lila after her mother's passing. He described, almost poetically, the beauty of languages and the subtlety of human dignity, a realm Victoria had never needed to navigate in her boardrooms and shareholder meetings. The grocery aisle, once an ordinary mundane space, had transformed into an arena where societal hierarchies were being silently challenged. People stopped, whispering among themselves, captivated by the unexpected duel of wit and presence. Victoria's expression shifted, first to shock, then to an uncharacteristic unease as the realization dawned. She had underestimated not just a man with paint on his sleeves, but a human being whose life carried depth, resilience, and an unspoken authority that no amount of money could buy. Mike glanced down at Lila, who now stood slightly taller, inspired by her father's quiet strength. He didn't need to raise his voice, gesture theatrically, or demand attention. The mere act of responding truthfully and with dignity had already rewritten the narrative Victoria had so confidently authored in her mind. She stared, momentarily disarmed, as the bustling noise of the store seemed to recede, leaving only the weight of accountability and reflection pressing against her conscience. And in that split second, the story could have ended, but it had only just begun. The grocery store's usual rhythm, the low hum of conversation, the distant beeps of scanning machines, and the occasional squeak of shopping carts, was shattered by an abrupt, piercing alarm. Mike and Lila turned toward the source, the sliding doors of the store's main entrance, swinging wildly under the force of several masked intruders. Panic rippled immediately through the aisles as shoppers froze mid-step, carts abandoned, and murmurs of disbelief and fear spread like wildfire. Victoria, her designer heels clicking against the polished floor as she tried to retreat, clutched her phone as if it could somehow summon protection. The intruders, armed and aggressive, barked demands in harsh English and Spanish, forcing everyone to the ground while one of them made a beeline for the cashier stations. Mike, instinctively, moved Lila behind a display of organic cereals, crouching low, shielding her with his body as his mind raced. This was not a simple robbery. Something about the intruders' movements, their coordination, and the way they swept through the store suggested military precision, or at least extensive training. Mike's eyes narrowed. Every muscle, every reflex honed from years of special operations training. The skill set he rarely revealed, the one he buried beneath the facade of a single dad delivering groceries, suddenly surged to the surface. He assessed the situation. Hostages, weapons, and panic-stricken civilians, all in a confined space with multiple exit points. Victoria's previously arrogant gaze landed on him again, her expression oscillating between fear and recognition. "Do something," she hissed, not realizing she was addressing the one person fully capable of responding. Mike didn't answer immediately. He whispered to Lila, "Stay down. Keep quiet. Trust me." Her small hand slipped into his, squeezing lightly, a silent affirmation that they were together in this. The intruders forced a cashier to open the safe, their voices rough and commands sharp. Mike's mind mapped every movement. The nearest exits, the placement of obstacles, the positions of each masked figure. He calculated how to neutralize threats without endangering innocent lives. Time was compressed, seconds feeling like minutes. Mike moved subtly, slipping behind the shelves with a crate of canned beans. His presence was almost ghost-like, unnoticed by the intruders, whose focus was entirely on chaos and intimidation. He assessed their weapons, handguns and at least one compact submachine gun. The store's layout offered potential improvised cover. Shopping carts, heavy freezers, stacked crates. But Mike's real advantage was his experience in close-quarters combat, honed through years of missions where hesitation meant death. Suddenly, one intruder spotted movement near the cereal aisle. Mike feigned panic, stumbling slightly, drawing the intruder closer. In one fluid motion, he redirected the man's momentum, knocking the weapon aside with a precise wrist lock and a knee strike that sent him sprawling. The other intruders, startled, momentarily faltered. Mike seized the opportunity, moving swiftly from shadow to shadow, disabling each armed assailant with the same calculated efficiency. He wasn't reckless. Each action was deliberate, designed to incapacitate rather than kill, minimizing risk to hostages. Victoria watched, frozen as her assumptions about Mike, the man she had dismissed for his appearance, for his ordinary job, crumbled in real time. Every strike, every maneuver displayed control, confidence, and skill. The arrogance she carried like armor against the world now felt painfully inadequate in comparison. She had judged him on superficialities, unaware that true competence often lurked beneath the most unassuming exteriors. Amid the chaos, Mike's attention remained on Lila. "Stay low," he murmured, pressing her to the floor behind a display. He scanned for the leader, the one orchestrating the heist. The man wore a black tactical vest, barking orders and keeping everyone on edge. Mike calculated the approach. The leader needed to be isolated, neutralized, and the situation stabilized before it escalated further. Using a combination of diversion and stealth, Mike approached from the shadows, surprising the leader with a controlled takedown that rendered him unconscious within seconds. "Why now?" Store security had arrived, drawn by the alarm. Seeing the intruders incapacitated, they moved in cautiously, securing the hostages and calling for backup. Shoppers emerged from hiding spots, some trembling, others clapping in disbelief as they witnessed the aftermath. Victoria, still in shock, finally found her voice, but it was a whisper, reverent and incredulous. How did you?" Mike crouched, brushing dust from his shirt, Lila's hand in his. He gave her a small, reassuring smile. "Sometimes, the world expects the ordinary to do nothing," he said softly. "But the ordinary can surprise you when it counts." Victoria swallowed hard, her mind racing. She had underestimated not just a man's appearance but the depth of his courage, intelligence, and resilience. The hierarchy she had clung to, wealth, status, corporate power, suddenly seemed fragile, almost irrelevant. Every gesture Mike had made, every calculated move, had spoken louder than any boardroom speech, any financial accolade could. The media would call it a store hero, but to Mike, it was simply a father protecting his child and the people around him. Lila looked up, awe in her eyes, and whispered, "Daddy." You're amazing. Mike ruffled her hair gently, the weight of responsibility mingling with pride and relief. Victoria, meanwhile, began to reconsider her own life choices. Watching Mike in action, she felt a pang of self-awareness, an uncomfortable acknowledgement that her own success, though tangible and publicly celebrated, could never replicate the authenticity of Mike's quiet, courageous life. In that moment, she made a silent vow to reassess not just how she judged others, but how she lived, how she led, and how she measured value. The incident concluded with authorities taking statements and securing the remaining intruders. The store slowly returned to a semblance of normalcy, though the atmosphere remained charged with the memory of what had just occurred. Mike, Lila by his side, walked toward the exit, carrying her hand, unbroken, unshaken, yet profoundly changed by the event. A father who had become, in one extraordinary instance, the unexpected hero everyone remembered in Victoria. She followed, not immediately, but at a cautious distance, grappling with the stark realization that heroism is rarely advertised, often hidden in plain sight, and that some lessons, once learned, cannot be unlearned. The store had settled into an uneasy calm. Shoppers were murmuring, whispering about the paint-streaked dad, who had single-handedly subdued a team of armed intruders. Police were busy cataloging evidence, interviewing witnesses, and taking statements from a few still-shaken staff members. Yet for Mike Sullivan, the adrenaline that had surged through his veins just minutes before had not fully subsided. His eyes swept the aisles, calculating, assessing, ensuring no danger remained. Lila clung to his hand, her small fingers interlaced with his, absorbing every ounce of the bravery she had just witnessed firsthand. Victoria Hawthorne, meanwhile, hovered near the edge of the chaos. Her perfectly tailored Chanel suit no longer felt like armor. The click of her heels, which had once projected dominance, now echoed uncertainty. She had watched Mike in awe as he navigated the delicate choreography of close-quarters combat, incapacitating dangerous intruders with efficiency and precision. He had done it without raising his voice unnecessarily, without theatrics. Yet every move radiated authority and mastery. "Mike, I can't believe you just did that," she stammered, stepping closer but still maintaining a cautious distance. Her tone carried awe, tinged with embarrassment for having misjudged him earlier in the store. She gestured to the chaos around them. "All of them. You handled all of them." Mike gave her a small, wry smile, brushing a streak of dust from his paint-stained shirt. "It wasn't about proving anything," he said calmly. "It was about keeping people safe. That's all." His eyes flicked to Lila, who now stood proudly by his side, her earlier fear replaced by a quiet confidence. "And making sure she's safe," he added softly, nodding toward his daughter. Victoria's face flushed. She thought of the arrogance with which she had spoken in French, assuming he would not understand her condescending insults. She remembered the look on his face when he had replied fluently, revealing not only intelligence but the kind of dignity money could never buy. Her entire worldview, rooted in wealth, status, and superficial judgment, now felt hollow. "I owe you an apology," she said, voice shaking slightly. "I judged you based on, I don't even know, appearances. I thought that because of your job, your life, that—" She trailed off, struggling to articulate the sudden collapse of her assumptions. Mike held up a hand, cutting her off gently. "Victoria, it's fine. You don't owe anyone an explanation for what you think or feel. What matters is what you do once you realize it." His calmness, the unflinching integrity in his eyes, had a grounding effect on her, a mirror reflecting everything she had neglected in pursuit of success. Meanwhile, Lila, emboldened by her father's bravery, tugged at Victoria's sleeve. "Mommy always said people can surprise you," she said quietly, referring to her late mother's words, though applying them in her own observation. "And Daddy, he really did." The statement, simple yet profound, hit Victoria with unexpected force. She looked down at Lila, then back at Mike, seeing not a man defined by his job, income, or social status, but a person whose courage, intelligence, and love for his daughter defined his worth. It was a lesson she had never truly internalized, despite decades of privilege. Mike glanced at the subdued intruders, now restrained and surrounded by police officers. Each had been incapacitated in a way that left them unharmed, a testament to his skill and moral code. He had neutralized danger without unnecessary violence, every move precise, deliberate, and almost artistic. The spectacle was over, but the impact lingered, on the witnesses, the officers, and Victoria herself. "You know," Victoria began, hesitating as she searched for the right words, "I've met a lot of people in my life, powerful people, educated people, but I've rarely met someone like you. Someone who can be so capable, so fearless, and still so humane." Her voice faltered, then grew firmer. "I want to make amends. Can I buy groceries for you and your daughter? It's the least I can do after." She trailed off, gesturing vaguely at the chaos she had caused with her earlier arrogance. Mike shook his head, his expression patient yet resolute. "We're fine. Lila and we don't need anything. We're okay." His answer wasn't prideful. It was simple, grounded, and entirely sincere. Yet when Lila, with an innocent grin, pointed to a chocolate cake on a nearby display, Mike gave a reluctant laugh and allowed her to pick it. It was a small concession, but it carried the weight of their bond, and a reminder that life's small joys often mattered more than material restitution. Victoria exhaled, a mixture of relief and admiration washing over her. The experience had left her shaken, but it had also opened a door to reflection, to humility, and perhaps even to genuine change. She observed Mike with newfound respect, seeing that courage, character, and authenticity could not be purchased, inherited, or flaunted. They were earned, lived, and revealed in moments that truly mattered. As Mike and Lila made their way toward the exit, Victoria followed at a cautious distance. She had no desire to overshadow their moment, no attempt to impose her wealth or influence. Instead, she simply walked, silently acknowledging the lesson she had been given: that the measure of a person was not in their attire, their salary, or their social standing, but in the choices they made, the risks they took to protect others, and the integrity with which they lived their lives. The incident, though terrifying, had concluded, yet it had irrevocably shifted the dynamics between the two. Mike had emerged as a hero not because he sought recognition, but because he acted from a place of responsibility, courage, and love. Victoria, confronted with her own flawed assumptions, had no choice but to reckon with the disparity between her world and the one Mike inhabited. A world rich in values she had long neglected in her pursuit of success. And so, the story reached its climax not through wealth, not through status, not through ostentatious gestures, but through the quiet, undeniable power of character, skill, and integrity, leaving everyone who witnessed it transformed, inspired, and questioning the true meaning of worth. Victoria stood silently at the store's exit, watching Mike and Lila walk hand in hand into the sunlight. In that simple gesture, a father protecting his child, acting without expectation, she saw a lesson money could never teach. True courage, integrity, and love often reside in the most unexpected places. She pulled out her phone, already imagining the changes she could make in her own life, both personal and professional, inspired by a man she had underestimated mere moments before. To all of you watching, remember this: heroism isn't always loud or flashy. Sometimes, it's quiet, unassuming, and profoundly human. If the story inspired you, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Hit the notification bell so you never miss a story that celebrates real courage. Thank you for being part of this journey. We'll see you in the next story, where ordinary people reveal extraordinary strength. Thank you so much for watching today's story. If Mike and Lila's courage inspired you, please hit that like button and let us know in the comments what moments moved you the most. Don't forget to share this video with friends and family who love real, uplifting stories about everyday heroes. And of course, make sure to subscribe to our channel and tap the notification bell so you never miss another incredible story where ordinary people reveal extraordinary strength. Your support means the world to us and keeps these stories coming. From all of us here, thank you again for being part of our community. Stay inspired, stay kind, and we'll see you in the next story.